In this episode, you'll hear some sensitive topics. So, with this trigger warning, if you have little ones around, please grab your headphones now.
When I was living in Bali, I went through a Kundalini awakening experience. And I was already singing a lot, and I've always been a singer. I grew up a singer, but I had this deep feeling that there was healing connected to the voice. And so I had been praying about it. And then I had this Kundalini experience, and all this information started to come through, but from inside of me. It started to wake up from inside of me. The vocal work specifically, I like to say it's just if you're ready to discover the power of your voice,
Yeah.
discover the power of your voice. If you feel like you get this knot in your throat, and when you go to speak, or if you're really afraid to be seen, if you're really afraid to speak up in a group, then that center is shut down. And if
Mm.
you open that center, it is your self-healing tool. You can heal yourself through your own voice. You can realign your system. You can find your balance again.
Folks, this week's guest is my friend Christina Wells, Reiki and pranic healer. From a spiritual awakening early in her life, how does Christina help her clients balance the energies of their various chakras through what she calls vocal sound therapy? You'll definitely want to tune in to hear Christina's story. Let's cue the intro. Welcome to the Boom Vision Podcast, the show that empowers you to live an enriching life physically, mentally, and spiritually. I am your host, Benjamin Ye, and I created this podcast to give you perspectives on how to strengthen your mindset so that you can build optimal health, create aligned wealth, and connect with your higher self. It's all interconnected. Let's get to work. Hi, folks. Welcome back to episode 73 of the Boom Vision Podcast. I'm happy to share today's interview with my friend Christina Wells, who I was introduced through our mutual friend Rahul Panchal. Knowing her warm and loving energy, I knew I had to invite Christina on our show. As a brief background, Christina Wells began her training from her mother at the age of 15 as a Reiki and pranic healer. She grew up learning from her parents. Her father is a holistic chiropractor and her mother a nurse and energy healer. In addition to these skills, Christina was born a gifted singer. As an adult, Christina Wells began helping people and animals that would come to her. She immersed herself in nature, lived in the outbacks of Alaska, and studied wildlife biology in Montana. At 25, she moved abroad and spent nearly 10 years living around the globe in Mexico, Peru, Australia, Bali, and Egypt. She spent years studying indigenous cultures and traditional forms of healing. At the age of 31, she experienced a spontaneous Kundalini awakening. During that time, she spent months in solitude, awakening to the healing powers of her own voice. She began channeling songs from the land and spirits. A year later, she translated this experience in a way to heal the body through the power of one's voice. At 40 years old, Christina has 25 years of experience working with holistic medicine, energy healing, and helping people awaken to the power of their voice. She compassionately helps everyone that comes to her so that they can return to health, connected, and in harmony with all things. Currently, she lives in Wrightwood, California with her partner, 2 dogs, and a family of 12 chickens. Together, they are building an eco-home for people from the city to come learn, relax, rejuvenate, and remember their roots. So without further ado, here's Christina. Christina Wells, welcome to the Boom Vision Podcast. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
It is such a pleasure having you, Christina. I would love to dive right in and listen to your origin story. Where did it all start for you, and what's led to where you are today?
Well, I mean, it all started for me when I was born. It's always a journey. I mean, for me, life is it's really a journey that's constantly changing. And so a lot of my path really started when I was relatively very young. My mother's a nurse, but she also is an energy healer. And we traveled a bit when I was a kid, but when she married my stepdad, he was a holistic doctor. And I really started asking a lot of questions around that time. I was probably like 14, 15 years old. And I was originally raised in as a Jehovah's Witness up until I was 13. And I just had all these like, who is God? Like, what is this? There's all these pictures of a man on a throne. But wait, who gave birth to him? I remember like where are his parents? Like, what about the women? I had all of these questions. And then my mom really started bringing energy healing into the house. And when she did that, something inside me just changed. I wasn't really the popular kid. I was very shy. I was very introverted. I really kept to myself. And I just felt like this light bulb go off in me. And I was like, oh my God, I understand this. This makes sense. This makes sense. And it just like, everything lit up inside my body and I just instantly resonated and I instantly was like teach me, show me, like let's do this. And she just started incorporating it with me. And so that was a big, I would say a big beginning in my spiritual journey. Yeah.
And that was in high school that
I was
happened,
in high
or?
school. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow,
I
okay.
was
And I'm just curious, was it a specific event that sparked that aha where like I get it? Like was it something where your mom was doing a session for you or did you witness something where
No, I was remember very clearly I was sitting on the couch and I was always a kid that like spoke to things. I had seen things and I was always a kid that was like that and I always would get like insights in my body or have these deep sense of like knowings. But at that time I was just sitting on the couch and she said something like spirit guides. And it just this light bulb. And then she was just like talking about the energy. And I don't even remember exactly what she said. I just remember it was like my consciousness turned on. All the places of life that felt very out of order and something didn't quite fit, all of a sudden it was like, oh, thank God, this is like, okay, thank you. I can breathe now.
And so, wow. So your parents, growing up in that environment where energy healing was really just introduced in such an early age, it just, for you, it was just like day-to-day life, essentially, right?
Yeah, my mom didn't start to introduce it till I was 15, so I'm sorry I didn't clarify that before. And, my stepdad's been my holistic doctor my whole life. So with my mom's background as a nurse, just like really I was brought up to love nature, to tend to the animals, to tend to the plants, to feel life around me. That's how my mom raised me. And my other siblings didn't latch on to any of it. Me and my mom were the woo-woo people in the family.
Gotcha, gotcha. And then I guess once that clicked for you, Christina, then I guess from high school onwards till today, like what was your journey like? Did you immediately start practicing? Like, that was basically, you following your passion, or did life kind of had different twists and turns that led you back to this path?
It definitely had twists and turns, but there was definitely direction. I mean, every step of my life has been about following an inner call, an inner voice. Just about like everything I've done through high school, and I'm not saying I had it all down perfect, but I would get these like internal messages and I would follow that to my deepest. And so when I was a teenager and then I graduated high school, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I loved energy work and I worked with my mom a lot and I would help people occasionally, or we would go to certain events and things. And I really enjoyed it. And I was very much into Buddhism a bit and would go and spend a little time with the monks here and there when I was like 19 and 20. And I just explored. I didn't have like a strong I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. And then that slowly started to click more. I knew I was good with people. I knew I had people just naturally spoke to me and told me their problems and, and I just knew how to like touch them in certain parts of their body and they would like open up and feel better. And then they'd walk away and it'd be like, okay, bye. And that's just been my whole life. So it just was something very, very natural for me. And I actually went to school for wildlife biology. I really wanted to be the voice for the animal kingdom. That's where I wanted to take things. And I just would look at life, I remember, and I would see, I was like, okay, some things, nature's disappearing, cities are growing, things feel out of balance. How can I be of service? And where is my support going? So my journey definitely evolved over the years from school, from wildlife biology to living in the mountains to immersing myself in my spiritual journey and accepting my passions. I think that's a better description of it.
Got it. I want to go back to something you said because you said early on you had these internal messages, and it's sort of
Mhm.
like an innate knowing, your intuition sharing with you. In what way did that communicate for you, that message come across? Did you hear something? Was it visual? Because for everyone, it's different, right?
Yeah, I mean, we have a lot of different, we have seven psychic centers, just like we have different chakras. We're a lot more than just the clairvoyant that most people are accustomed to. But I like one of my earliest times that I remember, I don't know, I think I might have been 16 and I was at home and I just it was kind of like a voice, but it was also me at the same time, but it was just so strong and loud inside of me. And it was like, the purpose of life is to have no regrets. Have no regret. And it was like, follow your heart and have no regrets. And I was like, oh my God, I have to listen to that. I have to listen to that. This is so true. And I remember I ran into the bathroom and I looked in the mirror and I was like, okay, Christina, the purpose to life is to follow your heart and have no regrets. And
Wow.
I did that. That's what took me on all of my journeys.
Yeah. Okay, you said there were seven
Seven psychic centers.
centers. Can you tell me a little bit about that? Because I've this is something new for me.
Oh,
So
it's new for you. Yeah. So,
yeah.
I mean, we're familiar with clairvoyance. So you can, I call them psychic centers, and every human body is built with it, right? So it's just like your chakra system. Your body's built with that. So you have your clairvoyant system, but your clairvoyant system is connected to what? It's connected to your third eye. So then you have clairsentience. Well, that would be like empathy. Okay, that you're
Hmm.
feeling, I feel certain things around me, right? So you have that clairsentience, that psychic center of feeling. You have a psychic center for smell. I don't know if you've ever been somewhere and there's no flower, but all of a sudden you smell this like this whiff of a rose or a lilac, and there's nothing around like that. That's a psychic center. You're picking up certain things. You
Hmm.
also have your psychic center of touch. Clairaudience, that would be clear hearing. So your psychic center of hearing, and that's where you can hear either mediums. This is a great example for mediums where they're hearing spirits, talk to them. But you can also hear your guides and different things like that. And then you have like clear knowing. So your psychic center of just knowing. And everybody's body is built with that. Just like a primal animal, how do they feel something before they even see it?
Hmm.
They're all, a lot of these things are survival instincts, or they're connected to survival instincts in my opinion.
Mm. No, I
Mhm.
love that. The way I break it down just in layman terms, it's like, we're so used to driving this body, this vehicle that we have. Like, and I use a car analogy where, the only thing that people really either pay attention to or can only see is just their dashboard, which is just, how fast are you going and how much fuel do I have left in the tank, right? But
Mhm.
there's all this space in the dashboard, all these other features that if there's just a blinking light, they don't understand what it's for. They usually just dismiss it without understanding, well, it's trying to signal something to you, and whether you want to hone in on it to understand what is it for, that's really up to you. You have free will to do that. But once you
Mhm.
have that awareness and you also understand how exactly it's communicating, it's almost like to me, translating what you just shared with me, it's like There's seven other areas in the dashboard, whether you can focus on that or not. Some people might have it easier than others and
Hmm.
amplifying those features, but
Hmm.
it's just knowing that it is there, whether
Hmm.
it's dormant or active. Well, that's really up to you and how you want to
Hmm.
exercise that. And that's kind of how I take it.
Yeah, I would completely agree. I mean, basically, people who have it very strongly active, they most likely had developed those skill sets in previous lifetimes, or it came
Yeah.
through their ancestral lineage. But anybody can, just like learning to ride a bike, if
Yeah.
you concentrate on it to strengthen it, you can build that muscle.
Right. So energy work. Okay. How do you describe it in layman's term that doesn't necessarily quite either have experience in energy, like healing session, or know what it's about? How would you be able to describe to someone so they can kind of understand it in a better sense? And I guess the second part of that question too is, aside from your influences of your parents on energy work, was that the main draw that drew you towards energy healing, or was it something else that prompted that?
No, what prompted it, I definitely was my soul.
Mm,
I feel, it's very deeply a part of my soul's essence. There's just been so many things. There's just like that knowledge is inside of us. Whatever you're doing, whether you're a mechanic or you're this, like everybody has like a gift and a skill set, and it's just very deeply embedded in me. And my parents just like they were this beautiful gift of like introducing it to me. But in all fairness, I believe I would have found it regardless.
mm.
And knowing myself and my personality. What was your first question?
How would you describe energy work or energy healing to someone that has never experienced it before or doesn't know what it means?
So energy healing, I practice Reiki. My mom also taught me pranic healing. I'm not certified in pranic healing, but I incorporate that into my sessions. But ultimately, at the end of the day, I don't necessarily associate with those quote unquote modalities. Energy is everywhere. So when I have a client that comes to me and they've never been introduced to energy healing before, I describe it as when you go outside and the sun is shining, does it shine on you? Do you feel it? That's energy. Everything in your body is energy. Science has already proven that. From your cells to your atoms to your thoughts to your heartbeat, your body would not be alive if it didn't have energy. So, because we are a living organism, we have energy. And we want our energetic system to be aligned and opened for us to feel healthy, for us to feel in harmony with the people around us, for us to feel like we're flowing with life properly. That happens through your energetic system. So how can that look? If you think of your body like think of your veins almost that are running through your body. Those are like energetic pathways. So just like a house has an electrical current system, you have a whole electrical system that's built up. You have outlets for each room. The human body isn't very different. So you have that same electrical energy system that runs through. And like a house, you have a room for different things. So because you have these energy systems that are running like currents, so they're called meridians, then you have major energy centers which charge and run the whole body. So you
Mm,
have seven major ones with your body, but we have so many more than those main seven. But those are
mm,
your main chakras that keep a person alive. Like it's
mm.
really impossible for a chakra to not be running.
And this is whether you have that awareness or not. It's just really it feels like the main joints of the electrical system in your current, call it house, so to speak, right?
Yeah, exactly. So when that is running fluidly, I step outside, I receive the sunlight, I'm receiving the energy. Every person has it in us, but we also have it around us. We're
Mm,
receiving energy and we're giving energy every day, whether we're conscious of it or not. You and I, we're interacting. So we're having an energetic exchange, right? Maybe you come across an energetic exchange that, whoa, that was turbulent. That didn't quite feel so good, right? And the system might feel a little jarred. it might feel a little, whoa, wait, I feel a little off balance now, or something got a little stuck in there. And that's where energy healing comes in. It helps to move like some of those jarred experiences and that take place in the body that can congest a chakra. So chakra is always running, but it can get congested. You want it to be just as bright as a flower that you see outside, but it can start to get a little murky for various reasons. And each center has a different purpose, just like the kitchen has a purpose for cooking food and the bedroom
Mm.
has a purpose for sleeping, right? Each center has a purpose for something in your body. And that's related to not just your emotions, but your mental body and your spiritual body. So you're looking at, oh, and my physical body. So I have all of my organs, I have my brain, I have the health of that system and how that food is interacting with my emotions and how this interacts with this. It's not linear.
Yeah. And I guess to go a little bit deeper in what you just shared, how can someone tell if there is maybe an energetic blockage that needs to be addressed, right? Like, when you think about the physical ailment someone might feel, like a headache or something like that, that's something they might feel in terms of their physical body. They're feeling some sensation and pain. But how can we, like, I'm trying to walk them through the steps of how does that
Mm-hmm.
relate to the energetic, call it your electrical system, so to
Mm-hmm.
speak, of how things are flowing, because they're, like I said, they're a bit intertwined, right? It's all interrelated.
Yeah, so I'll just start at the bottom of the body and I'll work up and I'll kind of explain that a little bit. And you don't need to get so tied up in is there a blockage? Is there not a blockage? I can almost guarantee you most people, they can tell when something's a little off in their body, but maybe
Yeah.
they've just been avoiding it.
Yeah.
Or the biggest thing that I find is people just put it off. It's not
Mm.
even that they're avoiding it, they just put it off. Or oh, I thought I worked on that. I think I kind of did, or I thought I mentally worked my way through it. So I just want to clarify that a little bit. Don't get too caught up in that, but people know. It's just about starting to listen to your body. So
Mhm.
your root chakra, that's going to be around your tailbone. That's all about your foundation, right? So if there's a lot of money issues or home structural issues, right? All of that gets established at a young age. So people who have had a lot of childhood traumatic experiences are going to have some congestion or disturbances within that center, for example. And then, so one way to do it would be to look at your patterns and look at the different patterns that are coming up within your life. Oh, I keep experiencing the same person that I keep dating over and over and over again, or I keep having this issue with this job over and over and over again, or I keep having this, and why do I feel stuck? So if you really just start to listen to how the mind is speaking or how one is speaking to oneself, you're going to clarify because you're actually telling yourself quite frequently. And
Mhm.
that's where it's a little different, where I know there can be like, oh my God, I have to have positive thinking and it's really important because that's how I manifest. Yes. And your body's also talking to you. So pay attention to what you're saying.
Mm.
Don't get too wrapped up in the negativity of things, but just listen a little bit.
Mm.
I'm diverting a little bit, I think. So there's your root chakra. And that system is going to work up into your solar plexus system. So that's going to be more about relationships. In my experience, most people have the areas of concern, not concern, but the areas that are usually the most congested in a person's body is their throat chakra for how they're speaking, how they're communicating, how they're relating to people, their colon, which is also connected to your sacral chakra. So it's not just relationships. You get into your colon, you have, oh, how am I digesting life? How am I digesting the food that I'm intaking? So that's also a part of it as well. And so there's usually with the digestive system is usually pretty off balance because most people don't want to feel what's going on down there. Most
Mm.
people suppress it with food and then the quality of our food these days isn't good. So that plays a role as well. Those two centers are frequently off, if a person's had a lot of heartache, if they're crying a lot, it really just depends on the person when they come to me. I don't feel like a person has to have everything fully understood and worked out in their brain. Your brain's not going to work out the problem.
Yeah, that's might be where it shows up, but not necessarily where the root causes.
Yeah, and so it's really just, I mean, when you start to work with energy work, you just let the energy flow. Let it start opening up those energy currents, that electrical current in the house where there might be some blockages, where, oh, one of those wires in the wall, it hasn't been tended to in a while, and I need to tend that.
Yeah.
And then let's look at that, and is there something to address that you're doing in your life that's contributing to that unhealthy energetic line?
Hmm.
Or do you just need to just start receiving the energy and it will just open right back up? It's actually really simple. I mean,
Yeah.
if you look at a plant and it can be dying, and if you give it water and stick it in the sun, what happens?
Usually, if you do two of those in a healthy amount, then it will start to heal.
It will start to heal, it'll start to grow, it'll start to look vibrant, the flowers will come back. The human body is no different.
Right.
All you got to do is give it what makes it healthy.
Yeah.
That's it. And it's really simple. And we want it to be something else. So that's where the big blockage is. We want it to be something else because we
Hmm.
we really like the unhealthy things, but we don't really like the unhealthy things. So it's
Hmm.
just give it what makes it grow. Give your body the water and the nourishment that it needs. And that's it. It's really, really simple.
Hmm.
And that's
Now,
how energy works.
Christina, you practice I believe, a specific type of modality you created, which is vocal sound therapy. Is that right?
Yeah, so back in after I got out of school, I traveled I traveled abroad for about 10 years. When I was in living in Bali, I went through a Kundalini awakening experience. And I was already singing a lot, and I've always been a singer. I grew up a singer, but I had this deep feeling that there was healing connected to the voice. And so I had been praying about it. And then I had this Kundalini experience, and all this information started to come through, but from inside me. It started to wake up from inside of me.
How do you explain Kundalini to someone that's never heard that term before?
So if you look at your spine, at this base of your spine, you have your tailbone. That is where your root chakra is. So that energy is going to be automatically connected to the earth. You're receiving energy from the earth all the time when you're walking around. At the base of the spine is a coiled up energy. It's kind of like dormant energy, like you were referring to before. So it's a bit dormant. When that energy wakes up, then it will surge up the spine and it will pass through all of the chakras. As it's passing through all of the chakras, it will cleanse, but also light up areas that are muddy.
Got
But
it.
it's like if a person's walking around and their battery's only partially charged, and a Kundalini awakening is like you just got full blasted, you're fully turned on. All
Wow.
that
Okay.
energy is blasting through your system.
So you experienced that in Bali, right?
I experienced that there.
And was it something that you were doing that triggered that sparked that, or it was a gradual thing, or because it sounds like it's like a almost like a bolt of energy that just kind of surged through you and
It was
or
a gradual thing. It was a compilation of me following my inner voice and random guidances that I just was feeling. I felt very strong to go on a cleanse and to eat a very certain way. I felt to go off all sugar, to go off all salt. I was only doing like vegetable smoothies, and I was, of course, meditating. And so that was one thing. And I did that for probably at least a couple months. And I was just cleansing, cleansing, cleansing. And as that was cleansing, my sensitivities were starting to heighten. And then I went to a ceremony, and in that ceremonial experience, it just blasted open. And after that, I wouldn't be able to sit here and have a clear conversation with you
hmm.
because so much energy was coming through me. I was just in a constant state of meditation.
Okay, so walk me through what happened in the days after. So going through that, it feels like your body probably had to recalibrate to this new surge
There
of
was a
energy you're gonna go through, right?
lot of recalibration. My vision expanded probably tenfold. I just felt everything around me. I just felt everything, and anything that was dense felt lifted. And
Hmm.
I felt everything, but I started to see through, I started to see more. Like I said, my psychic centers were more open. My clairvoyancy expanded as well. I was hearing more, but mostly it was like this deep peace. Like there was no desire or need to go to the restaurant to sit down to go meet a friend. I was so content with what I felt inside my body. I just
Wow.
felt, and to be in touch with something that was always there. That was the biggest thing. It wasn't like it was new, but it wasn't new, actually. It felt very familiar. It was like,
Yeah.
I know this. This is the point. This is the essence. Oh my God, I'm so sorry, body, for not listening to you before. I feel you now. And
Hmm.
it was more like I hope I'm explaining it right, but that's what it felt like. It was just I felt very at home, very peaceful, and all I could feel my DNA and the information that had all been stored in there in my life's path. I could feel it. And all this information from within my own body came through my voice.
Hmm.
And I started singing through my voice into my body. So I was making sounds very specific for different areas of my body. And if I felt discomfort or blockage or certain frequencies in certain areas, I would stay there. And so I was working through my voice into my body. And through that, I was expanding further.
Was this an innate knowing that you had, or did someone teach you this in your time at Bali?
Nobody taught me this.
Wow.
No,
Okay.
I did all that on my own. I mean, there were people who were singing. Definitely when I got to Bali, I heard a couple women sing. And again, it was like, oh, that's familiar. I know those sounds. I know what she's doing with her voice because I'm a trained singer. But it wasn't traditional, I'm gonna sing happy birthday with these lyrics. It was, it was a little different. So I had started to go into that. I was like, I remember that, and I started to do it instantly. I didn't train. A lot of things in life I have gone and I've worked with elders, but I haven't done like a lot of quote trainings. It's come through me. It's
Yeah.
come through my innate knowing.
Yeah.
And then I'd read a book and then the book would just confirm what I already knew. And then
So, Christina, can you walk me through like a session of this particular one you're saying about the vocal sound therapy? Like, what was a session look like? So, for someone that has curiosity or
Mhm.
feeling that, man, I think there's something there that Christina has that I can, I would love to try it. Like, I just want to give them a glimpse.
Your throat chakra is the pressure valve that expresses your entire system. So I'll just start there. It's the pressure valve that expresses the entire system. So if you visualize your body from your tailbone all the way up to the top of your head, right? And then kind of picture like a tire wheel that's moving and that energy that's coming up your spinal column and it goes all the way up to your head, right? And it's moving and it's flowing. That's because that pressure valve is working properly. It has to move through that throat, through that vocal center for it to move and keep spinning.
Hmm.
So frequently what happens is people shut down their expression. They might shut down their expression in a relationship, in a job. They don't know their purpose. I've been told to speak this. I've been told to be kind. I can't have this feeling. I got to manipulate what I say here to be accepted over there. So, and I'm weaving to your question to answer your question. So, with the throat being the pressure valve that expresses the whole system, when you sit down, I guide you through a series of sounds to help open up those energetic pathways within your own body. So I'm just guiding you. I can see the energy, I can feel it, and I can see where, and I can hear it, where it's going in your body. So I can hear where it's blocked, where it's getting, where it's not hitting. Now, most people aren't with their voice, they're not actually in their lower belly.
Mm.
Most people only reside about where their heart is. Some people can go all the way down. So in a session, I'm taking a person with their voice and I'm bringing them all the way down to their root chakra. I'm bringing them all the way down to the base of their body. I'm bringing them down to their tailbone. And then from there, then I work the person's voice upward.
Mm.
But in the journey going down, what frequently happens is there's cement to break through.
Mm.
Literally, it feels like cement. There can be, now, not everybody, I'm speaking in a general term. I have met some people where it's like, oh, okay, wow, yep, we're right into your sacral. That's easy, that tone, you can go down. But generally speaking, there's a lot of debris because there's so many things that a person has suppressed within their own expression. Maybe
Got
in a
it.
conversation, or maybe they didn't do this, or they did do this, or, and then it just builds up. Well, as it builds up, you're creating this solidified field of energy where you don't feel as much. So as you go in with the voice, I like to call it also awakened embodiment, because you're taking yourself through this system and you awaken through it. You're awakening yourself to centers and sensory systems in your body that, whoa, I didn't know I could feel this way. My whole body is tingling. I feel safe to speak. Oh, it's healthy for me to speak. I feel comfortable walking around the yard singing without fear of somebody hearing me or a neighbor and what they might think. So, my first question would be, how much do you, or does anybody who's listening, suppress your expression when you're in public? How much do
Mm.
you suppress your expression within your own home because somebody's in the room next door? So all of these things become energetic, like pressures. They starts to push in on a person's body. And so with the voice, when you're going in, you're actually just blasting that open. You're blasting open any chains of self-suppression you put around yourself. You're blasting open any areas that just got congested. And so then your whole people's bodies just start to vibrate.
Are you able to like share an example of what are people typically encountering or feeling that prompts them to have this type of healing session?
So, because this is not a linear thing again. So that's where
Hmm.
these concepts can be like, well, wait a second, my brain wants to make this very linear. So I've had a variety of people come with a variety of different reasons.
Sure.
So some people are sound healers and they want to learn how to clear their energetic channels and start singing. So their
Mm.
voice becomes the healing instrument, right? So I've worked with people that way. A lot of women come to me, a lot of women, because the voice in this way is so connected to the womb. The voice and the
Mm.
womb are intricately connected. So they're very drawn. There's an innate knowing that takes place for women in particular around it. But yeah, a lot of women might come like, there's this song inside of me. I just feel it. I need to sing, but I don't know why. Or, something's wanting to emerge from me and I'm trying to find my true self. That commonly happens as well. Generally speaking, it is a very scary thing, this modality. It can be very scary. I have found not, and I'm not saying that to turn people off, it's not a scary experience, but people are moving through deep fear, and that is what is scary.
Got it.
So, unless a person is really ready, they don't do it. I have experimented with some people to like some energy healing clients be like, this would really be good with you. And it was, but they weren't ready for the full experience. I could only scratch the top of the surface
Mm.
because there was a lot of fear and they weren't willing to move through that fear yet. So, in order to
Yeah.
sit down with this type of a session, you need to be willing to move through your fear because I'm not giving you a pill. I'm
Yeah.
not doing it for you.
Yeah.
I'm guiding you and I'm motivating you to fully embrace the power of your voice.
What comes to me as I'm listening to you talk, Christina, it's almost sort of like you've got potentially some barriers that might be as hard as cement that you need to break through.
Hmm.
And in order to do so, just releasing a valve and just using a regular garden hose to just spray water on it, it won't really do anything to kind of break through the barrier, right? But and so
No.
in some cases, you might need to upgrade the power of it to almost like a power wash, where like you really need some kind of force, but that takes a certain new higher level of energy. And are people ready for that? Do they have the desire? Do they want to have that follow through? Because sure, I mean, through repetition and through a long period of time, maybe you're able to break through, but to really get to something that might have a really strong barrier as quote unquote cement, that takes a little bit more, equally, if not more force, but really in a safe space that you're
Mm-hmm.
creating.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just more of another perspective to share. How much are you willing to work through your fears? Because it's not a gentle, like, oh, if I put water, it'll just naturally dissolve. Like, it's not going to be that, it won't necessarily be that easy. And that's kind of imagery that I get when I'm listening to you talk.
Well, not necessarily.
Mm,
Sometimes it opens up very gently and very smoothly, and it
mm,
is just like water, and it's completely fine. I was giving an example before. It's
yeah.
not all really hard, and then sometimes the more pressure a person puts on it, the harder it gets,
Oh, interesting. Can you give an
right?
example? I'd love to go a little bit deeper on that.
Hmm. So in a session, in these particular sessions, it is a very safe space. So the first thing is when you're setting up a space like this might be a person is expressing in a way that they've never expressed before. Maybe they were never allowed to express themselves in that way, right? And so I encourage any sound. There is no such wrong thing as there's no wrong sound. All sounds are accurate and all sounds are going to take you to that depth of what we were talking about. And sometimes there are certain sounds, if a person needs it, that will break through some of that cement. So there are sound frequencies that will go there, but the person just needs to be willing. And when I say willing, it's like when I'm working with somebody, I'm like, okay, take your voice here, go here, extend it here, do this tone, okay? Bring the level up, right? It can bring a lot up for people. Maybe within the first few sessions of working with somebody, there's a lot of crying that takes place because they're starting to experience things just on the lower part of their heart chakra. And we got to get through that before we can even get all the way down to the root.
Mm.
And so it is like water because oftentimes the like tears will move it. Tears will totally move it.
Right.
And so when a person surrenders to that and they just let themselves be vulnerable in the experience, that's where that easily works through. Does
Mm.
that make a bit more sense? It's
Oh,
really
no,
in the
totally.
vulnerability. It's really in the vulnerability and getting out of the head.
So what I'm feeling as I'm listening to you in this specific example is more like sometimes if you just use pure force and energy and speed, it's like you're not allowing the grace of the body able to process if it is tears and unexpressed emotions that need to surface. It needs that stillness to be able to do so. And sometimes if the energy is too forceful, then you're not giving it the space for that to actually come out. So it's again, it's almost like running over what needs to be, wait, it needs to come out of
Hmm.
the space of it. And so I don't know how to describe it, but I know what you mean in
Yeah.
that context because it's that vulnerability is usually helpful to have that stillness to express, to be heard, not overpowered,
Yes.
right?
Yeah. So you can't have, like I said, it's challenging sometimes to explain it all
Yeah,
because it's not linear and
mm,
it really is dependent on who is sitting in front of me.
right,
What am I feeling from that person? What's coming up for that person in that moment?
mm,
And in a world where we're frequently being told, oh, you're depressed, take this depression medication and we'll numb that for you because that's all it does. It just numbs it. Then, there's people aren't used to going through the journey of it. So some people, what they need, they can get to me in one day. And some people, hey, maybe that takes 6, 7, 8 times with frequency.
right.
Because in day one, okay, we're able to get here. Let's hold that. Okay. And then the next day, okay, now we're able to go down and let's hold that. And I'm going to go on a journey with you while we're doing this. I'm going to journey with you because this is a journey and it's very helpful to have somebody hold your hand and to help you be like, it's okay if you fall. I'm going to help you stand back up and you're going to be okay. And we're going to move through these challenging feelings or emotions or sensations in the body and let the body expel it because the body knows how
Mm.
to expel it. The body knows how to heal itself.
Mm.
It's simple. We
Yeah.
don't make it simple, but it is simple.
Mm.
And so a big part of the vocal work, it's a journey. It
Hmm.
is definitely a journey. The more along somebody is in their knowing and awareness of their energetic system, I find that that journey is shortened
Hmm.
because they've already been opening up a lot of places. But if a person is new, they can still do this work. It's
Yeah.
just I'm not here to make false-ended promises. Sometimes you got to put in if you want like biceps, you got to go to the gym 3 times a week and build the muscles, right?
Right.
You
Right.
got to work for it. If you
Yeah.
want to lose some weight, you need to change your diet, and that takes, maybe a couple of months.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. So when you're healing something or you're clearing something or you're just opening up to something,
Yeah.
it's a journey.
Hmm. I want to ask a clarifying question, Christina. And the intention behind this question is how do we help best amplify your light so that you're serving people that can really benefit your gift? Okay, so I want to preface by saying this. So the context of the question is like, for example, if someone is feeling some back pain or, the mu muscles are really knotted, they
Mhm,
might go get a massage or if it's more structural, they might go to a chiropractor,
mhm,
right? There's certain behaviors and commonalities of pain they might be feeling on a surface level where when you're feeling this, you would go to this person. When you're feeling
mhm,
that, you would go to that person. So in that context, when someone is experiencing this type of blockage or feeling this, they would typically see you. How would you fill in the blank for that? And I know that's a very general sense, but at least it's a good I'm
mhm.
hoping as a beacon to at least get people to get their hands around energy around, oh, yeah, if I'm feeling this, you know what I mean? Pun intended. Oh, I should see Christina.
Oh my goodness. If you're feeling depleted, if you're feeling unclear, if you have physical back pain, I mean, the root of that very often, I've had energy work done on myself. My back was out of alignment and it popped right back in the session.
Hmm.
And so I like to say incorporate it as part of your self-care routine. I call energy adjustments, energy work is really like an adjustment. It's your regular tune-up. Like just keep your system running. You have to go through your house and clean your house, right? On a daily basis to keep it clean. You have to do the same thing with your body.
Hmm.
And I'm not being super direct and I apologize for that, but there really is it can be physical pain, it can be mental issues, confusion, depression, anxiety. It could be relationships are tumbling. It can be having issues with my job, having heart palpitations. I just lost a loved one and there's grief. Pretty much any emotion that's taking place in the body, I can work on.
That maybe you feel that it's trapped or you're not able to release it in a very safe and a right.
Exactly.
Got
With
it. Okay.
with the vocal work specifically, I like to say it's just if you're ready to discover the power of your voice,
Yeah.
discover the power of your voice. If you feel like you get this knot in your throat and when you go to speak, or if you're really afraid to be seen, if you're really afraid to speak up in a group, then that center is shut down. And if
Hmm.
you open that center, it is your self-healing tool. You can heal yourself through your own voice. You can realign your system. You can find your balance again.
Hmm.
So, yeah, discover if people are ready to discover their voice. If people feel off balance, the real summary of energy healing, in my opinion, is It's all about restoration of balance.
When you're saying balance the energy, I'm trying to sit from a layman's perspective.
Mm.
Is another way to describe it is sort of to neutralize something that may be negative to, doesn't have to be full swing to positive, but just neutral? Like,
So
is that what you mean by balance?
yeah, I mean, if you have a negative and a positive charge inside of your body, right? So, yes, if there's, okay, I'm going to bring in a little like we all have fire in us, we all have water,
Hmm.
we all
Hmm.
have the main elements, right? Our digestive system is filled with fire. That's how we break down food, right? We have the water, our whole body is filled with water, our brain, it's running through us everywhere. Our body is filled with the earth element as well, right? And then we also have the ether. We're breathing air, right? Constantly breathing air. If you look at balance from that perspective, then maybe a person's fire is too hot. So we need to tame the fire to bring balance with the other elements within the body. So when I speak to balance, I'm getting very basic and I'm not going into more of the intricate details. I did not study acupuncture. I know some things about it, but they're very good at looking at those elements and looking at bringing that harmony and balance. Ayurvedic medicine, excellent for a way to restore balance. Oh, it's too much fire. Oh, there's too much water. Oh, the water's getting muddy because and it's not moving. So that's how you want to restore balance. And so going back to when I was first talking to you, I brought up you have the mental body, emotional body, physical body, and then the spiritual body. Balance. Okay. So again, you need to balance those things. If I'm all mind, then I'm not feeling my body. And all of a sudden I have an ulcer because I've been running at 100 speed, right?
Hmm.
So you need to bring balance back into the awareness of the body.
I get what you're saying, and I want to share a different perspective, and I'd love to hear your thoughts about it.
Okay.
Because I think everyone's definition of balance may be slightly different depending on their life circumstances,
Hmm.
right? And so I'll give you an example. Some people might interpret balance as equal weight. So I would need to pay the same amount of attention and equal weight, 25% across all boards for that to be balanced. That may be one version of what they define for themselves as balance. And for me, the way I describe it is how do you find the right rhythm that best suits your current state? And so when I say rhythm, the visual I would share is almost like when you think of like a hula hoop. To be in sync with a hula hoop with your body, you're moving around so that you're reaching this quote unquote balance and equilibrium, but you're not putting equal weight in all parts of your body. You're going through the rhythm of what's kind of going with the flow of life, what's happening. And so it's a different sort of perspective. And the way I see it is if you focus on the rhythm, that element itself can help you get to that balance. It's not so much of the mechanics of everything needs to be equal. And so
Hmm.
I'd love to kind of hear, does that resonate with you, or what are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly getting into the rhythm of paying attention to all of those areas. And there is a rhythm to it. It's like again, it's not everything is brick and mortar, you know? And it's like where everything can be perfect every single day, but it's
Yeah.
about if I've been paying attention to my physical health, I make sure I get exercise, right? I take time away from the screen to give my mind some rest. I breathe and I do conscious breathing to feel my body. Okay, well, then there's three practices alone that is incorporating three parts of the four that I was already talking about, right? And those
Yeah.
can be woven into that fluid dance, however
Mm.
you choose.
Mm.
Now, like recently, I'll give an example. I had a client and she's comes to me and she's been coming to me for a long time. And anyway, she was bringing some things up and she's like, why is this happening? Why is this happening? Why is this happening? And I was like, well, what is your spiritual practice like? And that's what was really coming up is she wasn't paying attention to her spiritual practice. So other things in life weren't quite things didn't feel balanced. Oh, I'm hitting this wall. Oh, I'm hitting this. And I was like, well, why don't you incorporate a spiritual practice? Doesn't have to be meditation. Just maybe put out a little plate of food for the nature spirits every morning. And there's your spiritual practice, right? But whatever your religious beliefs are or non-religious beliefs are, incorporating that in for spirit, because we all have a spirit, then that's going to bring in that balance. And it's woven in, like I love your analogy of the hula hoop because it's perfect. It's very fluid. It's constantly moving. You just bring your awareness to it. You restore
Mm,
it. Oh, I'm moving too fast. Okay, bring some awareness in. Let me bring a little balance. And oh, well, coffee's making me speak really fast and move too quickly, and I'm speaking before I think. Well, stop drinking coffee. Like, right?
yeah.
It doesn't always have to be very complicated into the energetic system. And a lot of the solutions can be very simple
Yeah.
in coming into balance. If you're working 7 days a week and you're not going outside, then just go outside, put your feet on the earth, get some fresh air and some vitamin D from the sun and, incorporate. So think about for me, all a person has to do is think about my mental, my physical, my emotional, my spiritual. They don't have to weigh it out. So everything's a perfect 25% of everything.
Right.
But what are they doing to nourish each one of those quadrants?
Yeah. Balance for me just is like, hey, there's stillness in the water, so then the clarity kind of can emerge.
Hmm.
Otherwise, if it's still always chaotic water, choppy waters, then you can't even see your own reflection,
Yeah.
right? But to get to that state for everyone, it's not as simple as follow these three procedures and you'll get there. Everyone's just going to be different. And it's just what's that equilibrium for you? Just kind
Yeah,
of what I'm looking
exactly. Exactly. Some of my biggest takeaways in the things that I've learned from some of the teachers I've had is every single person has their own divine and unique connection with spirit.
for.
I cannot, at the end of the day, I can guide you with maybe a few things that I'm seeing, but nobody really knows better than Ben,
Mm.
right? And that goes for everybody. Nobody really knows. And what is going to be a better path for somebody than that person themselves because they have their own unique connection with spirit and they are being guided through their own body and their own connection. When they walk outside, the way the sun hits you
Mm.
is unique. The way you feel it on your body is your unique experience.
Yeah.
So follow your instinct. I would say to people out there, where you haven't been listening to yourself. So just listen to yourself. Could
Yeah.
be, oh, and then I feel so guilty because I need to and I really want to. And it's just like, don't even get caught up in this story. Who cares what happened yesterday? Just go. And this is where a lot of those positive mindset thoughts and manifestations for me are very powerful. Be
Mm.
kind with yourself. Say nice
Yeah.
things to yourself. You deserve to have some relaxation. You deserve to smile. You deserve to, have a hug and, have those types of things. So it's not so hard, and
Yeah.
it's going to be as smooth as anybody makes it. And it's
Mm.
going to be as rough as anybody makes it.
So, Christina, one question I always ask my guests is if the DeLorean was real and you can travel back in time at any point in your life, my question for you would be, how far back would you travel and what would you share with your younger self? One piece of advice. What would that be for you?
So I'm going to share a very personal story, and some of the information in here might trigger some people. So I just want to be really blunt, but I want to be really honest to this question. Because if there's one thing I would go back and I would share myself, it would be this. And when I was younger, I did have a couple of abortions. And I thought I was doing the right thing at the time. It didn't seem like I wanted to give to a child properly, to raise them properly, because I saw so much that wasn't going well in life. So I thought, oh no, when I'm ready, when I can provide well and bring this child up well, then that's when I'll do that. And, I won't go into all the details of the experiences with it, but more recently, I learned from an elder that those things is the biggest spiritual crime a person can actually make. And somebody had actually said this to me probably about, I don't know, some years back. I was in Colombia and I was like, no, 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 no. I was fluffing it off. And so I'm in this ceremony and I saw it. I saw all this unresolved energy and something it was just unresolved in me. And so I learned that creates a spiritual karma beyond my wisdom, beyond my ability to fix. I'm not going to pretend that I have it because I don't. There are masters of different things. You go to different people for different stuff. And it needed to be cleared because it can drastically impact a life. And if it doesn't impact a person's life directly, it can impact the next generation's lives. What I was learning was very profound. And I was guided to this Dogon healer from Africa who specialized in clearing that spiritual karma. And I did it. And I'm very grateful that I did it. But if I were to go back, I would tell myself not to do that.
Mm.
And I was for many years always pro-choice. Always it's up to the woman to decide, and now I feel women should know there's a lot more layers to it than what we were brought up with and knowing.
Mm.
And if you're going to do that, then take care of it properly because it can affect people's lives. I met another woman who never saw her mom, and her mom had had an abortion. And after her mother got this healing session, it like brought all these people back together in their family. And so it's very personal. Like I said, that might be triggering topic for some people, but that's definitely what I would go back and teach myself.
I appreciate you being open and vulnerable to share that personal story. One of my intentions actually for asking this question about the time machine is because a lot of times it's just giving the space for people to express, because in some parts it's also healing for itself to think about, wow, if I had a chance to just go back in time, what would I say? Some people, when they feel like, oh, life is always meant to be and it is what it is, it
Mhm.
gives a glimpse of kind of where they are in their spiritual journey. Other people, it's like it's just an opportunity for them to express that. So you never know what people where they are in life to be able to say that. And I just want to acknowledge you in saying thank you for being open to being vulnerable and sharing that.
Yeah, I feel like, it's a wisdom I'm very grateful to have now.
Mm.
Yeah.
So, Christina, where can our listeners find you? Where they can find you, but also kind of the services that you provide to your clients.
So you can find me via my website, or that's an easy way. It's just reikiplus.net. But yeah, I live in Wrightwood, California. I work with people virtually through Zoom or over the phone. And I also meet with people in person. I would say just reach out, say hello. What do you need help with? I offer one-on-one sessions. And then I also offer healing programs for people who want to journey with me for 6 weeks or 12 weeks at a time, and to work on something more specific or to really help the restoration of bringing their energetic system back into alignment and more healthy. So yeah, I would say just find me on my website, send me an email, Christina@reikiplus.net. Come up to Wrightwood, California. Come say hello. My partner and I will show you our chickens and our garden, and I got a sweet puppy. She's not a puppy anymore, but we love sharing our life with people and the beauty of a simple life. And yeah, and just being able to, we'll let you eat in our garden, make you a fresh, yummy salad that we picked with our own hands. And
It's such a
yeah.
treat. It's such a treat. Christina, I feel like my intuition is nudging me on one last question for you, which is there something I did not ask you today you wish I had asked you?
Hmm. I would say the biggest thing is that you're perfect. You're whole. Take action. Just move, get up, do it. Who cares about what happened yesterday? Give yourself a hug, be open to change, and listen to yourself, love yourself, water your own garden. And the biggest thing I could share, and at least in my journey and where I'm at, is, grow your own food. You can take a tiny piece of land and you can grow some vegetables for yourself and just see how your health returns, on various levels, and teach your kids to do the same. The biggest things for me has been in think about the 7 generations ahead. And, in our society, government society, we're not really raised with that mentality. And it's a very indigenous mentality. Your actions are always based on the 7 generations ahead. So what kind of world do you want your grandchildren to live in? What kind of world do you want your great, 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 great grandchildren to live in? And help to set that path so that can happen. Because there's a lot of stuff happening in this world. There's junk in the grocery stores and massive consumerism, and it's sad, and it's real, and it's happening. And kids are getting lost in technology, and they're becoming mummies, and they're not motivated to do anything. And so think of a different educational system for your children. It doesn't have to be what you grew up with. Maybe the educational system you grew up with, hey, you might be learning things here that it didn't teach you. Well, maybe there's new educational systems where kids can learn these things, because everything I've been sharing is just knowledge. It's emotional intelligence. It's spiritual intelligence. And these things can easily be shared with our children for those future generations. It's how we choose to build that. What matters is what's happening in your own backyard.
Got it. Christina, thank you so much for your time today. It's always a blessing to just be in the presence of your aura and energy. And so I just wanted to acknowledge you for you being you, and whatever I can do to help amplify your energy and light, please let me know.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for having me on the show. And everyone, smile bright, stick your feet in the dirt, and
I
sing
love
really
it.
loud.
I love it. Thanks, Christina.
You're welcome.
I hope you enjoyed this interview with Christina today. If there's a quote I can share that best summarizes what I've learned from Christina, it's this: everything is energy, and that is all there is to it. Match the frequency of the reality you want, and you cannot help but get that reality. It can be no other way. This is not a philosophy. This is physics. This quote was by Albert Einstein. If you feel inspired by Christina's interview, please share this interview with someone you feel can benefit from hearing her story. And if you haven't already, I also invite you to hit that subscribe button to this Boom Vision podcast if you are ready to thrive together mentally, physically, and spiritually. Until next time, folks, be kind to yourself. Be in the light. Be you. Thank you so much for tuning in to my Boom Vision podcast. If you'd like to find out more about me and this podcast, head over to benjaminyeh.com. That's spelled BenjaminYeh.com. If you haven't already, click subscribe, and I'll catch you next time.